We are reading Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, Chapter 17. The Man with Two Faces. Very last chapter. If you're new here, hi, welcome. Know that this isn't an audiobook. I don't read this strictly word for word. I should read it more word for word, honestly. I keep adding words or subtracting words or skipping whole sections. Not intentionally. But I'm not here to take away from what J.K. Rowling has done. I'm here to add to it. I'm here to expand upon it. I'm here to transform it. It's transformative content. So I do a lot of commentary. I do a lot of talking about it. I really go through. I stop every once in a while to talk about what I'm reading. So it's not strictly an audiobook. So if that's what you're looking for, I suggest you actually buy the audiobook and not watch me. Also, spoilers. There'll be lots of spoilers because I don't hold back. I talk about everything and anything in regards to Harry Potter. So also, if you don't want spoilers, I suggest you watch something else. Yeah, so get comfy, get a drink. I currently have root beer in my awesome fancy dancy Harry Potter tumbler. I think that's what this is. My best friend got it for me for my birthday, and that same friend just had a baby yesterday, in fact. Very, very exciting. Anyway, that was her baby shower that I went to a handful of Saturdays ago. In January, actually, when I had to miss a straight time Saturday because I went to her baby shower. It was her baby shower I went to. Anyway, let's read. I've been jabbering on too long. Okay, Chapter 17, The Man with Two Faces. Okay, this is a weird place to start. Maybe I'll go ahead and read the last. I'll read the sentence from the previous chapter because the next sentence will be more impactful if you remember what the last chapter was. The last sentence of the last chapter. There was already someone there, but it wasn't Snape. It wasn't even Voldemort. It was Quirrell. You, gasped Harry. Quirrell smiled. His face wasn't twitching at all. Me, he said calmly. I wondered whether I'd be meeting you here, Potter. But I thought, Snape. Severus? Quirrell laughed, and it wasn't his usual quivering tremble either, but cold and sharp. Yes, Severus does seem the type, doesn't he? So useful to have him swooping around like an overgrown bat. Next to him, who would suspect stuttering Professor Quill? Sorry. Harry couldn't take it in. This couldn't be true. It couldn't. But Snape tried to kill me. No. I tried to kill you. Your friend Miss Granger accidentally knocked me over as she rushed to set fire to Snape at the Quidditch match. She broke my eye contact with you. Another few seconds and I'd have got you off that broom. Can't read. I'd have managed it before if Snape hadn't been muttering a counter-curse trying to save you. Snape was trying to save me. Yes, Harry. Of course, said Quirrell coolly. Why do you think he wanted to referee your next match? He was trying to make sure I didn't do it again. Funny, really. He needn't have bothered. I couldn't do anything with Dumbledore watching. All the other teachers thought Snape was trying to stop Gryffindor from winning. He did make himself unpopular. And what a waste of time, when after all that, I'm going to kill you tonight. Quirrell snapped his fingers. Ropes sprang out of thin air and wrapped themselves tightly around Harry. You're too nosy to live, Potter, scurrying around the school on Halloween like that. For all I knew, you'd seen me coming to look at what was guarding the stone. You let the troll in. Certainly. I have a special gift with trolls. You must have seen what I did to the one in the chamber back there. Unfortunately, while everyone else was running around looking for Snape, who already suspected me, went straight to the third floor to head me off. And not only did my troll fail to beat you to death, that three-headed dog didn't even manage to bite Snape's leg off properly. Yeah. Yes, Quirrell is explaining everything. perfect for us. Yeah. So Coral, the troll bit beforehand, in the as one of the enchantments guarding the stone, it was already dead when we came by it. That's because it was Coral's, and he was able to subdue it because he has a gift with trolls. Interesting gift. Now wait quietly, Potter. I need to examine this interesting mirror. It was only then that Harry realized what was standing behind Quirrell. It was the mirror of Erised. This mirror is the key to finding the stone, Quirrell murmured, tapping his way around the frame. Trust Dumbledore to come up with something like this. But he's in London. I'll be far away by the time he gets back. All Harry could think of doing was to keep Quirrell talking and stop him from concentrating on the mirror. I saw you and Snape in the forest, he blurted out. Yes, said Quirrell idly, walking around the mirror to look at the back. He was on to me by that time, trying to find out how far I'd got. He suspected me all along, tried to frighten me, as though he could, when I had Lord Voldemort on my side. Why didn't he go to Dumbledore? Why didn't Dumbledore just fire him? I feel like there's a hole in this story. I feel like if Snape really suspected him, he would have told Dumbledore, and Dumbledore would have fired him. Or something. Done something. I don't know. Quirrell came back out from behind the mirror and stared hungrily into it. I see the stone. I'm presenting it to my master. But where is it? Harry struggled against the ropes binding him, but they didn't give. He had to keep Quirrell from giving his whole attention to the mirror. But Snape always seemed to hate me so much. Oh, he does, said Quirrell casually. Heavens, yes. He was at Hogwarts with your father, didn't you know? They loathed each other, but he never wanted you dead. I wouldn't say that. He has more compelling reason for Harry to be alive. Let's put it that way. But I heard you a few days ago, sobbing. I thought Snape was threatening you. For the first time, a spasm of fear flitted across Quirrell's face. Sometimes, he said, I find it hard to follow my master's instructions. He is a great wizard, and I am weak. You mean he was there in the classroom with you? Harry gasped. Voldemort was in Hogwarts. That's a crazy thought. That's a really crazy thought. Voldemort was in Hogwarts. Is in Hogwarts at this point. And he doesn't return until Deathly Hallows, which is a connection between this one and the last one that you can make. A lot of connections can be made between Sorcerer's Stone and Deathly Hallows. Yeah. Yeah, Dumbledore kept Quirrell just so Harry could go on an adventure. Honestly, there's a part of me that wouldn't be surprised. He's with me wherever I go, said Quirrell quietly. I met him when I traveled around the world. A foolish young man I was then, full of ridiculous ideas about good and evil. Lord Voldemort showed me how wrong I was. There is no good and evil. There is only power, and those too weak to seek it. Since then I have served him faithfully, although I have let him down many times. He has had to be very hard on me. Quirrell shivered suddenly. He does not forgive mistakes easily. When I failed to steal the stone from Gringotts, he was most displeased. He punished me, decided he would have to keep a closer watch on me. Very close watch. Yes, this concept of there is no good and evil, there's only power, and those too weak to seek it. Obviously, J.K. Rowling is making commentary on the latter, or the opposite of that. If the bad guy says that, then the opposite must be true. There is most certainly good and evil. Quirrell's voice trailed away. Harry was remembering his trip to Diagon Alley. How could he have been so stupid? He'd seen Quirrell there that very day, shaken hands with him in the Leaky Cauldron. Yeah, you did. Quirrell cursed under his breath. I don't understand. Is the stone inside the mirror? Should I break it? Harry's mind was racing. What I want more than anything else in the world at this moment, he thought, is to find the stone before Quirrell does. So if I look in the mirror, I should see myself finding it, which means I'll see where it's hidden. But how can I look without Quirrell realizing what I'm up to? He tried to edge to the left, to get in front of the glass without Quirrell noticing, but the ropes around his ankles were too tight. He tripped and fell over. Quirrell ignored him. He was still talking to himself. What does this mirror do? How does it work? Help me, Master. And to Harry's horror, a voice answered, and the voice seemed to come from Quirrell himself. Use the boy. Use the boy. Quirrell rounded on Harry. Yes, Potter, come here. He clapped his hands once, and the ropes binding Harry fell off. Harry got slowly to his feet. Come here, Quirrell repeated. Look in the mirror, and tell me what you see. Harry walked toward him. I must lie, he thought desperately. I must look and lie about what I see. That's all. Quirrell moved close behind him. Harry breathed in the funny smell that seemed to come from Quirrell's turban. It's canon. Voldemort stinks. He closed his eyes, stepped in front of the mirror, and opened them again. He saw his reflection, pale and scared-looking at first, but a moment later the reflection smiled at him. It put its hand into its pocket and pulled out a blood-red stone. It winked and put the stone back in its pocket, and as it did so, Harry felt something heavy drop into his real pocket. Somehow, incredibly, he'd gotten the stone. Well, said Quirrell impatiently, what do you see? Harry screwed up his courage. I see myself shaking hands with Dumbledore, he invented. I've won the House Cup for Gryffindor. I think it would have been better if he said he saw his parents, because that's more believable, because that's actually what he would see. Quirrell cursed again. Get out of the way, he said. As Harry moved aside, he felt the Sorcerer's Stone against his leg. Dare he make a break for it? But he hadn't walked 5 paces before a high voice spoke, though Quirrell wasn't moving his lips. He lies. He lies. Potter, come back here, Quirrell shouted. Tell me the truth. What did you just see? The high voice spoke again. Let me speak to him, face to face. Master, you are not strong enough. I have strength enough for this. Harry felt as if Devil's Snare was rooting him to the spot. He couldn't move a muscle. Petrified, he watched as Quirrell reached up and began to unwrap his turban. What was going on? The turban fell away. Quirrell's head looked strangely small without it. Then he turned slowly on the spot. Harry would have screamed, but he couldn't make a sound. Where there should have been a back to Quirrell's head, there was a face, the most terrible face Harry had ever seen. It was chalk white, with glaring red eyes and slits for nostrils, like a snake. When I first ever saw this movie, my 4th grade teacher read this book to us, the whole class. But she hadn't finished it yet. But I watched the movie with my parents before she finished it, so I had no idea that Voldemort was on the back of Quirrell's head. No idea. And so when I saw the movie, I was genuinely freaked out. I was like 10 years old. I was like, what? No. It was unbelievable. It was unfathomable to me. I never would have guessed it. Harry Potter, it whispered. Harry tried to take a step backward, but his legs wouldn't move. See what I've become, the face said, mere shadow and vapor. I have form only when I can share another's body, but there have always been those willing to let me into their hearts and minds. Unicorn blood has strengthened me these past weeks. You saw a faithful Quirrell drinking it for me in the forest. And once I have the elixir of life, I will be able to create a body of my own. Now, why don't you give me that stone in your pocket? Voldemort probably knows because he probably is a practiced legitimens. It's the magical ability to read minds. It's a skill that you can learn. Snape is somewhat of an expert, actually. So he knew. The feeling suddenly surged back into Harry's legs. He stumbled backward. Don't be a fool, snarled the face. Better save your own life and join me, or you'll meet the same end as your parents. They died begging me for mercy. Liar! Harry shouted suddenly. Talk about his parents and suddenly Harry won't have it. Suddenly Harry's all up in your business. He was scared before, now. I'm trying to think if that was actually true. I know what Voldemort's coming. I know what he's getting at. That his parents weren't super brave, although they were. James definitely tried to fight Voldemort. Lily might have begged. If only for her son's life, at least. I think we find out, and we hear snippets of the moment when she died in Prisoner of Azkaban, and I can't remember exactly what she says, but she might have begged. That's not such a terrible thing. I don't know. Voldemort makes it seem like it's such a terrible thing to beg for your life. It isn't, really. Quirrell was walking backward at him, so that Voldemort could see him. The evil face was now smiling. How touching, it hissed. I always value bravery. Yes, boy, your parents were brave. I killed your father first, and he put up a courageous fight. But your mother needn't have died. She was trying to protect you. Now give me the stone, unless you want her to have died in vain. That is also something we forget. Voldemort didn't really intend to kill Lily. That's something that nobody talks about. He was totally going to kill James. Like, Snape was all for that. Like, Snape had a conversation with Voldemort before Voldemort came to Harry's house when he was a baby. Snape had a conversation. Like, he was like, kill James, I don't care. Don't kill Lily. Snape gave Voldemort a specific request. I was going to say instructions, but you don't instruct Voldemort. He gave Voldemort a request not to kill Lily. He didn't even care if Harry was dead. Like, kill James, I don't care. Kill Harry, I don't care. Just don't kill Lily. Well, that didn't go. And so Voldemort was actually going to honor that. Like, Voldemort didn't care. He was like, your mother needn't have died. He wasn't going to kill her, but she wouldn't get out of the way, as a good mother would, as a good mother would protect her child, so he had to kill her. Which Snape should have realized that was what was going to happen. I don't know. Snape's concept of love is very skewed, so... Anyway, and Voldemort, I'll repeat what Voldemort says. Now give me the stone, unless you want her to have died in vain. Never! Harry sprung toward the flame door. Flame? Oh, yes, the flame door. Yes, the way he came in. Well, I was thinking, because in the movie, there's flame, there's fire everywhere. And I don't think that actually happens in the book. And so that's why I was caught off guard. I was like, wait a minute, there is fire? But he's talking about at the door from the previous room. He had to take the potion to get through the fire. That's what he means by the flame door. But Voldemort screamed, seize him! And the next second, Harry felt Quirrell's hand close on his wrist. At once a needle-sharp pain seared across Harry's scar. His head felt as though it was about to split in two. He yelled, struggling with all his might, and to his surprise, Quirrell let go of him. The pain in his head lessened. He looked around wildly to see where Quirrell had gone, and saw him hunched in pain, looking at his fingers. They were blistering before his eyes. "Seize him! Seize him!" shrieked Voldemort again, and Quirrell lurched, knocking Harry clean off his feet, landing on top of him, both hands around Harry's neck. Harry's scar was almost blinding him with pain, yet he could see Quirrell howling in agony. "Master, I cannot hold him! My hands! My hands!" And Quirrell, though pinning Harry to the ground with his knees, let go of his neck and stared, bewildered at his own palms. Harry could see they looked burned, raw, red, and shiny. "Then kill him, fool, and be done!" screeched Voldemort. Quirrell raised his hand to perform a deadly curse, but Harry, by instinct, reached up and grabbed Quirrell's face. "Ah!" Quirrell rolled off him, his face blistering too, and then Harry knew. Quirrell couldn't touch his bare skin, not without suffering terrible pain. His only chance was to keep hold of Quirrell, keep him in enough pain to stop him from doing a curse. Harry jumped to his feet, caught Quirrell by the arm, and hung on as tight as he could. Quirrell screamed and tried to throw Harry off. The pain in Harry's head was building. He couldn't see. He could only hear Quirrell's terrible shrieks and Voldemort's yells of, "Kill him! Kill him!" and other voices, maybe in Harry's own head, crying, "Harry? Harry!" He felt Quirrell's arm wrenched from his grasp, knew all was lost, and fell into blackness. Down, down, down. I believe Dumbledore just walked in. In the movie, you don't see that. In the movie, it's just Harry. He kills Quirrell, essentially, and then he's lying there. But I believe that's what just happened, is Dumbledore walked in and rescued him. I believe. Something gold was glinting just above him. The snitch. He tried to catch it, but his arms were too heavy. He blinked. It wasn't the snitch at all. It was a pair of glasses. How strange. He blinked again. The smiling face of Albus Dumbledore swam into view above him. "Good afternoon, Harry," said Dumbledore. Harry stared at him. Then he remembered. "Sir, the stone. It was Quirrell. He got the stone. Sir, quick! Calm yourself, dear boy. You are a little behind the times," said Dumbledore. "Quirrell does not have the stone." "Then who does?" "Sir, Harry, please relax, or Madame Pomfrey will have me thrown out." Harry swallowed and looked around him. That's actually true. I bet she would. He realized he must be in the hospital wing. He was lying in a bed with white linen sheets, and next to him was a table piled high with what looked like half the candy shop. "Tokens from your friends and admirers," said Dumbledore, beaming. "What happened down in the dungeons between you and Professor Quirrell is a complete secret. So, naturally, the whole school knows. I believe your friends Misters Fred and George Weasley were responsible for trying to send you a toilet seat. No doubt they thought it would amuse you. Madame Pomfrey, however, felt it might not be very hygienic and confiscated it." What a weird... They're so weird. Why? "How long have I been in here?" 3 days. Mr. Ronald Weasley and Miss Granger will be most relieved you have come round. They have been extremely worried. But, sir, the stone. I see you are not to be distracted. Very well, the stone. Professor Quirrell did not manage to take it from you. I arrived in time to prevent that, although you were doing very well on your own, I must say. You got there? You got Hermione's owl? We must have crossed in mid-air. No sooner had I reached London than it became clear to me that the place I should be was the one I had just left. I arrived just in time to pull Quirrell off you. It was you. I feared I might be too late. You nearly were. I couldn't have kept him off the stone much longer. Not the stone, boy. You. The effort involved nearly killed you. For one terrible moment there, I was afraid it had. As for the stone, it has been destroyed. So it could have killed him. Why? The effort involved nearly killed you. How? I don't think it's because of Lily's protective magic, love spell, I don't know what you want to call it. He's going to explain it in a few minutes. But that's why Harry was able to burn. That's why Quirrell burned when he touched Harry, as because of this protective charm that Harry's mother put on him by dying for him. I don't think that would have killed him. It might have something to do with the fact that Harry is a Horcrux. That a piece of Voldemort's soul is inside Harry. I wonder if that somehow struggled against what was happening with Lily's protective spell. And maybe that was the effort that Dumbledore is talking about that nearly killed him. Because I have a hard time believing that Lily's protective charm over Harry was so magical and so powerful that it was killing him. It seems counterproductive. Maybe. I don't know. Of course, Dumbledore's not going to talk about it. Because, yeah. Destroyed, said Harry blankly. But your friend, Nicholas Flamel. Oh, you know about Nicholas, said Dumbledore, sounding quite delighted. You did do the thing properly, didn't you? Well, Nicholas and I have had a little chat, and agreed it's all for the best. Excuse me. But that means he and his wife will die, won't they? They have enough elixir stored to set their affairs in order, and then, yes, they will die. Dumbledore smiled at the look of amazement on Harry's face. To one as young as you, I'm sure it seems incredible. But to Nicholas and Perenelle, it really is like going to bed after a very, very long day. After all, to the well-organized mind, death is but the next great adventure. You know, the stone was really not such a wonderful thing. As much money and life as you could want. The two things most human beings would choose above all. The trouble is, humans do have a knack of choosing precisely those things that are worst for them. Yeah. I would imagine. I wouldn't want to live to be 600. Honestly, the sound of living forever in heaven sounds exhausting, if I'm honest. I mean, I know it won't be, but the thought of it still exhausts me. Yeah, wow. That's just powerful. I'm just kind of dwelling on it. Life and money. We choose precisely the things that are worse for us. Yeah. That's good. That's good. That's good. Like, what more can you say? Like, solid wisdom drop. Harry lay there, lost for words. Dumbledore hummed a little and smiled at the ceiling. Sir, said Harry, I've been thinking. Sir, even if the stone's gone, you know who. Call him Voldemort, Harry. Always use the proper name for things. In fact, call him Tom Riddle if you want. That's his real name. Fear of a name increases fear of the thing itself. Yes, sir. Well, Voldemort's going to try other ways of coming back, isn't he? I mean, he hasn't gone, has he? No, Harry, he has not. He is still out there somewhere, perhaps looking for another body to share. Not being truly alive, he cannot be killed. He left Quirrell to die. He shows just as little mercy to his followers as his enemies. Nevertheless, Harry, while you may only have delayed his return to power, it will merely take someone else who is prepared to fight what seems a losing battle next time. And if he is delayed again and again, why, he may never return to power. Harry nodded, but stopped quickly because it made his head hurt. Then he said, Sir, There are some other things I'd like to know, if you can tell me. Things I want to know the truth about. Yeah. Yeah, Dumbledore. The truth, Dumbledore sighed. It is a beautiful and terrible thing, and should therefore be treated with great caution. However, I shall answer your questions unless I have a very good reason not to, in which case I beg you'll forgive me. I shall not, of course, lie. There he goes. So, in Order of the Phoenix, Dumbledore and Harry have this special discussion. It was, in fact, like the most exciting thing that people looked forward to in the book, because it was a line that was released long before the book actually came out. It was leaked, or J.K. Rowling leaked it on purpose or something or whatever, but she said there's an important sentence that explains everything about Order of the Phoenix, and it's this sentence. Dumbledore says to Harry, Harry, there's something that I should have told you 5 years ago, essentially, something like that. And so he should have told him right here. He's going to have this discussion with Harry about Harry having this special connection with Voldemort. Of course, even then, Dumbledore doesn't even tell the whole story, but how Harry and Voldemort are destined to fight each other, which isn't really that big of a secret, because you kind of figured that, right? But Dumbledore was supposed to tell Harry here, but he doesn't, because he wants to protect Harry from the truth. He wants to protect Harry's innocence. And this is that moment that he talks about. He talks about in Order of the Phoenix, he says, Harry, there's something I should have told you a long time ago. I should have told you in that hospital, when you were in that hospital bed your first year, when you asked me, I should have answered honestly and completely what I'm about to tell you right now. This is this moment right here. Well, Voldemort said that he only killed my mother because she tried to stop him from killing me. But why would he want to kill me in the first place? Ding, ding, ding. The one question he did not want you to ask is what I wrote here. I wrote that in my book right here at the bottom. Dumbledore's like, I'll answer any question. Harry's like, why did he want to kill me? Except that one. I'll answer any question but that one. It's the one question he didn't want you to ask. Dumbledore sighed very deeply this time. Alas, the first thing you ask me I cannot tell you. Not today, not now. You will know one day. Put it from your mind for now, Harry. When you are older, I know you hate to hear this. When you are ready, you will know. And Harry knew it would be no good to argue. But why couldn't Quirrell touch me? Your mother died to save you. If there is one thing Voldemort cannot understand, it is love. He didn't realize that love, as powerful as your mother's, for you leaves its own mark, not a scar, no visible sign. To have been loved so deeply, even though the person who loved us is gone, will give us some protection forever. It is in your very skin. Quirrell, full of hatred, greed, and ambition, sharing his soul with Voldemort, could not touch you for this reason. It was agony to touch a person marked by something so good. This actually makes me think. As a Christian, I have lots of specific Christian thoughts. When I read the Harry Potter books, I make references, I make connections with Christianity. Sometimes J.K. Rowling intends them, sometimes she doesn't. But I always think of the Holy Spirit at this concept. How the Bible says that we are marked by the Holy Spirit, and I always think that because in the movie, like, Dumbledore's like, you've been marked, and then Harry, like, obviously is like, he touches a scar thinking, oh, Dumbledore means a scar, and he's like, no, this is a mark you can't see. It lives inside you. It's yeah, and that's what the Holy Spirit is like. It's an unseen mark where when you accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, you receive the Holy Spirit, and you receive the mark of the Holy Spirit, meaning that you are chosen, you are saved, and it's a mark you can't see, and evil more or less can't touch us. Now, within reason, of course, that doesn't mean that we don't have evil encounters, that we don't have, that evil doesn't affect us or don't have bad things happen to us or anything like that. It just means we're protected from this kind of possession. We cannot share our soul with evil because of the mark of the Holy Spirit, that kind of thing. The way that Quirrell shares his soul with Voldemort. I put my bookmark away for some reason. Because I wanted to grab my pencil. That's why. Dumbledore now became very interested in a bird out of the windowsill, which gave Harry time to dry his eyes on the sheet. When he had found his... Oh my goodness! That's a reference... That's sort of a connection. I don't even think J.K. Rowling meant for that to happen. Okay, so as I'll bring up a lot, there's a pyramid, right? The Harry Potter books make a pyramid with like... Each book has a connection on the pyramid. So like you have 1, 2... my camera's backwards. 1, 2... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. With each book having a certain connection with each other. You'll find similarities between them. So you have 1, 4, and 7. They all make connections with each other. I don't know if there is a point. Does Harry cry in Deathly Hallows? I mean, I do. I cry a lot in Deathly Hallows. He certainly has reason to. Does he cry in Deathly Hallows at any point? I don't remember. But there is another scene. Right here, we have Harry in a hospital bed weeping. There is another time where that happens, and it's so sad. It's so sweet. It's so sad. It makes me cry every single time I read it. Goblet of Fire, right after the whole incident at the end with the Triwizard Tournament and the graveyard and all that. When all that's done and Cedric is dead and just the whole weight of everything that just happened to Harry that night. He's in the hospital wing, in bed, and he just cries. Like... Harry's not really a crier. He doesn't... I mean, I cry like every movie. I feel like I cry like every book. I cry at some point. I cry over everything. Harry's not really a crier. Despite everything that happens to him, I can only think of... I don't even know if he cries in Order of the Phoenix, to be honest. He cries here. He gets teary-eyed at the very least. And then Goblet of Fire, in that moment in the hospital wing, he definitely cries. Definitely cries. That's just absolutely loses it, because there's that section that Molly Weasley is there, and how like Molly just embraces him because she doesn't know what to do. It's just so sad. So sad. But Harry definitely cries in Goblet of Fire. I don't even think he cries in Order of the Phoenix. Like, he's so angry that he doesn't cry. After Sirius Black dies, he's stuck there in Dumbledore's office, and he's just throwing Dumbledore's shit around. It's great. It's one of the best scenes ever. Harry's just destroying Dumbledore's stuff. I don't even think he cries there. I don't even think he cries for Sirius Black. He does in the movie. Which is great. I love that. That he cries in the movie, but I don't think he cries in the book. He cries for Dumbledore in the movie. He doesn't cry for Dumbledore in the book, I don't think. Yeah, I don't think he cries for Dumbledore either. I don't think he cries. My point is, Harry's not really a crier. So this is like really significant. He cries here and in Goblet of Fire. I don't know if J.K. Rowling meant for us to make that connection, but I do. Both times he's crying in the hospital wing. And you're supposed to make connections. You are supposed to make connections between the first one, the fourth one, and the seventh one. All three of them have dragons. I feel like there's more than that. There is more than that, I swear. I took a special topics Harry Potter class in college, and this is what we talked about. We made connections. There's a dragon, and there are no dragons in the second one, or the third one, or the fifth one, or the sixth one. But there are dragons in the first one, the fourth one, and the seventh one. I feel like there's more than that, though. I can't think. Can't think of what other connections. Connections with Voldemort. Where Harry confronts Voldemort. Does Harry confront Voldemort in any other... he confronts Voldemort a little bit in Order of the Phoenix. It's still not as pronounced as the first one, the fourth one, and the seventh one. I feel like there's other connections, too. Anyway. I just wondered if that connection was intentional, is all. When he had found his voice again, Harry said, "And the invisibility cloak. Do you know who sent it to me?" "Ah, your father happened to leave it in my possession, and I thought you might like it." Dumbledore's eyes twinkled. "Useful things. Your father used it mainly for sneaking off to the kitchens to steal food when he was here." "And there's something else." "Fire away." "Quirrell said Snape, Professor Snape, Harry." Blah. I know there's tons of people who like Snape. I don't. Okay? I know. I'm grateful for the things he's done, blah, blah, blah. I still don't like him, okay? Yes, him. Yeah, that guy. Quirrell said that he hates me because he hated my father. Is that true? Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. There's literally no other reason. He hates you because he hates your dad. Literally no other basis. Extremely unfair. Well, they did rather just detest each other. Not unlike yourself and Mr. Malfoy. This is different. And then, your father did something Snape... I forgot about that. Holy moly, I forgot about that. And then your father did something Snape could never forgive. What? He saved his life. What? I totally forgot about this. This is not in the movies or anything. Yes, said Dumbledore dreamily. Funny, the way people's minds work, isn't it? Professor Snape couldn't bear being in your father's debt. And I do believe he worked so hard to protect you this year because he felt that would make him and your father even. Then he could go back to hating your father's memory in peace. It's way more complicated than that. I wonder if Dumbledore does know. That's the thing, doesn't he? Dumbledore does know. Snape told Dumbledore not to tell Harry or anybody else what's actually going on. The truth is, spoiler alert if you don't know, Snape is actually madly in love with Harry's mom, Lily. And that's why Snape protects Harry, because she's Lily's son. And that's probably the primary reason why he hates James. Though there are other reasons to hate James, too. Let's be honest, I kind of hate James. James is kind of not a nice person. Dumbledore doesn't tell Harry about Snape's feelings for Lily. First of all, that'd be super weird to tell an 11-year-old kid. Yeah, your potions master wanted to be with your mom. That's super weird. but even then, Snape told Dumbledore not to tell anybody, and so that's probably why Dumbledore doesn't talk about it now. Of course, that would have cleared up so much. That would have been so helpful. But no, that's Snape isn't gonna ever repay that debt. Ever. Snape is gonna continue to protect Harry. But yes, I forgot about that. James saved Snape's life. It happened in school, I believe. And I'm not even entirely sure how I know this, because there's a part of me that feels like it's not really explained in the book. I feel like this was explained somewhere else. But Harry, no, not Harry. So Lupin is a werewolf, yeah? And he was a werewolf with his friends in school. You know, you had Lupin and James and Sirius and Peter Pettigrew. Lupin was a werewolf, and, you know, the other three became animagi so they could hang out with him because werewolves have a better time hanging out with animals than humans for obvious reasons. So that was their way of being with Lupin when he was a werewolf, is that they would be animals together. Such a weird concept. Anyway, I think Sirius Black played a prank on Snape. Was it Sirius or was it James? I don't know if James was a part of it. Sirius, I think Snape knew that something funky was going on with those four at night. Something was crazy because they would sneak off once a month to do something. And Snape was determined to get them into trouble. Snape was determined to find out what they were up to. I think either Sirius Black told him or let him overhear that they were going to hang out in the Shrieking Shack, or he found out accidentally or somehow because Snape was trying to find them. He was trying to look into what they were doing. So Snape ended up going out to see what they were up to, and he ended up in the Shrieking Shack with Lupin as a werewolf. And Snape almost got killed by Lupin, but James saved him. I don't know exactly how that happened. I don't know exactly what went down. But James ended up saving Snape from Lupin as a werewolf. I think that's what happened. I don't remember if it's explained in the book or explained somewhere else, or it's very possible that that's some fan fiction that I read. I don't know. I don't remember specifically. I don't know. Maybe we'll come across it. It's like one of those memories that are so vague that you're not sure it's real. It's one of those. I think that's what happened, though. That James... I don't know if James was part of the... I believe it was a prank that they wanted to set Snape up. I don't know if Sirius really intended to get Snape killed or not. I don't know. But anyway, James put a stop to the prank is essentially what happened. Harry tried to understand this, but it made his head pound, so he stopped. There's one more thing. Just the one? How did I get the stone out of the mirror? Now, I'm glad you asked me that. It was one of my more brilliant ideas, and between you and me, that's saying something. You see, only one who wanted to find the stone, find it, but not use it, would be able to get it. Otherwise, they'd just see themselves making gold or drinking elixir of life. My brain surprises even me sometimes. Now, enough questions. I suggest you make a start on these sweets. Bertie Bott's every flavor beans. I was unfortunate enough in my youth to come across a vomit-flavored one, and since then I'm afraid I've rather lost my liking for them. And I think I'll be safe with a nice toffee, don't you? He smiled and popped the golden brown bean into his mouth. Then he choked and said, Alas, earwax. Madame Pomfrey, the nurse, was a nice woman, but very strict. Just 5 minutes, Harry pleaded. Absolutely not. You let Professor Dumbledore in? Well, of course, that was the headmaster. Quite different. You need rest. I am resting. Look, lying down and everything. Oh, go on, Madame Pomfrey. Oh, very well, she said, but 5 minutes only. And she let Ron and Hermione in. Harry! Hermione looked ready to fling her arms around him again, but Harry was glad she held herself in, as his head was still very sore. Oh, Harry, we were so sure you were going to... Dumbledore was so worried. The whole school's talking about it, said Ron. What really happened? It was one of those rare occasions when the true story is even more strange and exciting than the wild rumors. Harry told them everything. Quirrell, the mirror, the stone, and Voldemort. Ron and Hermione were a very good audience. They gasped in all the right places, and Harry told them what was under Quirrell's turban. And when Harry told them what was under Quirrell's turban, Hermione screamed out loud. So the stone's gone, said Ron finally. Flamel's just going to die? That's what I said, but Dumbledore thinks that... What was it? To the well-organized mind, death is but the next great adventure. If there's an afterlife for you, it certainly will be. There will be an afterlife for me. What will there be for you? Great quote from one of my favorite movies. I always said he was off his rocker, said Ron, looking quite impressed at how crazy his hero was. So Dumbledore's Ron's hero. Interesting. Not bad as heroes go. I just think that was an odd comment to make. Anyway. So what happened to you two? Said Harry. Well, I got back all right, said Hermione. I brought Ron round. That took a while. And we were dashing up to the Owlery to contact Dumbledore when we met him in the entrance hall. He already knew. He just said, Harry's gone after him, hasn't he? And hurtled up to the third floor. See, he freaking knew. He wanted Harry to have an adventure. He freaking knew. Do you think he meant you to do it? Said Ron. That's exactly what I'm saying. Sending you your father's cloak and everything. Well, Hermione exploded. If he did, I mean to say, that's terrible. You could have been killed, I know. Very, very irresponsible of an adult. Jeez. But then, of course, Harry would say, No, it isn't, said Harry thoughtfully. He's a funny man, Dumbledore. I think he sort of wanted to give me a chance. I think he knows more or less everything that goes on here, you know. I reckon he had a pretty good idea we were going to try, and instead of stopping us, he just taught us enough to help. I don't think it was an accident he let me find out how the mirror worked. It's almost like he thought I had the right to face Voldemort if I could. As an adult, I'm extremely disapproved. If Harry had parents, Dumbledore wouldn't get away with this. Yeah, Dumbledore's off his rocker all right, said Ron proudly. Listen, you've got to be up for the end of the year feast tomorrow. The points are all in for Slytherin. The points are all in, and Slytherin won, of course. You missed the last Quidditch match. We were steamrolled by Ravenclaw without you. But the food'll be good. At that moment, Madame Pomfrey bustled over. You've had nearly 15 minutes. Now out, she said firmly. After a good night's sleep, Harry felt nearly back to normal. I want to go to the feast, he told Madame Pomfrey as she straightened his many candy boxes. I can't, can I? Professor Dumbledore says you are to be allowed to go, she said sniffly, as though, in her opinion, Professor Dumbledore didn't realize how risky feasts could be. And you have another visitor. Oh, good, said Harry. Who is it? Hagrid sidled through the door as he spoke. As usual when he was indoors, Hagrid looked too big to be allowed. He sat down next to Harry, took one look at him, and burst into tears. It's all my ruddy fault, he sobbed, his face in his hands. I told the evil Git how to get past Fluffy. I told him. It was the only thing he didn't know, and I told him. He could have died, all for a dragon egg. I'll never drink again. I shall be chucked out and made to live as a muggle. Hagrid, said Harry, shocked to see Hagrid shaking with grief and remorse, great tears leaking down into his beard. Hagrid, he'd have found out somehow. This is Voldemort we're talking about. He'd have found out even if you hadn't told him. You could have died, sobbed Hagrid. And don't say the name. Voldemort, Harry bellowed, and Hagrid was so shocked he stopped crying. I've met him, and I'm calling him by his name. Please cheer up, Hagrid. We saved the stone. It's gone. He can't use it. Have a chocolate frog. I got loads. Hagrid wiped his nose on the back of his hand and said, That reminds me. I've got you a present. It's not a stout sandwich, is it? Said Harry anxiously, as at last Hagrid gave a weak chuckle. Nah, Dumbledore gave me the day off yesterday to fix it. Of course, he should have sacked me instead. Anyway, got you this. It seemed to be a handsome, leather-covered book. Harry opened it curiously. It was full of wizard photographs, smiling and waving at him from every page were his mother and father. Sent owls off To all your parents' old school friends asking for photos. Knew you didn't have any. Do you like it? Harry couldn't speak, but Hagrid understood. Harry made his way down to the end-of-year feast alone that night. He had been held up by Madame Pomfrey's fussing about, insisting on giving him one last checkup, so the great hall was already full. It was decked out in the Slytherin colors of green and silver to celebrate Slytherin's winning the House Cup for the 7th year in a row. A huge banner showing the Slytherin serpent covered the wall behind the high table. When Harry walked in, there was a sudden hush, and then everybody started talking loudly at once. He slipped into a seat between Ron and Hermione at the Gryffindor table and tried to ignore the fact that people were standing up to look at him. Fortunately, Dumbledore arrived moments later. The babble died away. "Another year gone," Dumbledore said cheerfully, "and I must trouble you with an old man's wheezing waffle before we sink our teeth into our delicious feast. What a year it has been! Hopefully your heads are all a little fuller than they were. You have the whole summer ahead to get them nice and empty before next year starts. Now, as I understand it, the House Cup here needs awarding, and the points stand thus. In 4th place, Gryffindor with 312 points. In 3rd, Hufflepuff with 352. Ravenclaw with 426, and Slytherin 472. A storm of cheering and stamping broke out from the Slytherin table. Harry could see Draco Malfoy banging his goblet on the table. It was a sickening sight. Gross. Yes, well done, Slytherin, said Dumbledore. However, recent events must be taken into account. This is a funny Harry Potter meme. I can't remember what it is. I found it somewhere. I don't know. Maybe my friend sent it to me. My friend likes to send me memes, Harry Potter memes and such. It's like you have like Ravenclaw that was like, I did super well on the test, and Hufflepuff, I don't know, did something great, and then Slytherin did something great, and then Dumbledore completely forgets all the good things they did, and he's like, Gryffindor went on an adventure, Gryffindor wins. Oh man, maybe I'll find that meme somewhere. That's a good meme. The room went very still. The Slytherin smiles faded a little. Ahem, said Dumbledore. I have a few last-minute points to dish out. Let me see. Yes. First, to Mr. Ronald Weasley. Ron went purple in the face. He looked like a radish with a bad sunburn. For the best played game of chess Hogwarts has seen in many years, I award Gryffindor House 50 points. 50 points for a game of chess. Dumbledore's just making shit up now. He's like, I gotta give points to Gryffindor. What do I do? No, of course, that was a really important chess match, to be fair. If you don't know the story, it sounds super, super lame. Like, what? Gryffindor cheers nearly raised the bewitched ceiling. The stars overhead seemed to quiver. Percy could be heard telling the other prefects, my brother, my youngest brother, got past McGonagall's giant chess set. So they know. They have context. Good. At last there was silence again. Second, to Miss Hermione Granger, for the use of cool logic in the face of fire. I award Gryffindor House 50 points. So she doesn't get any... So the Devil's Snare isn't her bit? Is it anyone? I guess not. I don't know. She gets credit for that, too. I award Gryffindor House 50 points. Hermione buried her face in her arms. Harry strongly suspected she had burst into tears. Gryffindors up and down the table were beside themselves. They were 100 points up. It's like he's undoing the damage that they had done to the Gryffindor points when they got detention for being out of bed earlier in the story. That whole bit that was just soul-crushing. Third, to Mr. Harry Potter, said Dumbledore. The room went deadly quiet. For pure nerve and outstanding courage, I award Gryffindor House 60 points. The din was deafening. Those who could add up while yelling themselves hoarse knew that Gryffindor now had 472 points. Exactly the same as Slytherin. They had tied for the House Cup if only Dumbledore had given Harry just one more point. Dumbledore raised his hand. The room gradually fell silent. There are all kinds of courage, said Dumbledore, smiling. It takes a great deal of bravery to stand up to our enemies, but just as much to stand up to our friends. I therefore award 10 points to Mr. Neville Longbottom. And, that means so much more when, the movie didn't have... This is one of those instances where the book is better than the movie. Because Neville wasn't involved in the whole detention thing in the movie. In the book, because Neville felt like he himself also let Gryffindor down, now this is Dumbledore's way of undoing that for Neville as well. Someone standing outside the Great Hall might well have thought some sort of explosion had taken place, so loud was the noise that erupted from the Gryffindor table. Harry, Ron, and Hermione stood up to yell and cheer as Neville, white with shock, disappeared under a pile of people hugging him. He had never won so much as a point for Gryffindor before. Harry, still cheering, nudged Ron in the ribs and pointed at Malfoy, who couldn't have looked more stunned and horrified if he'd just had the Bodybind curse put on him. Also, the reason why that losing all those points beforehand was so soul-crushing is so that this part could be so much better. It means so much more that Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Neville won all these points so that they could undo the damage that was done before. Which means, Dumbledore called over the storm of applause, for even Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff were celebrating the downfall of Slytherin. We need a little change of decoration. Cool part in the movie. He clapped his hands. In an instant, the green hangings became scarlet and the silver became gold. The huge Slytherin serpent vanished and a towering Gryffindor lion took its place. Snape was shaking. Snape was shaking. He was shaking. No, he was shaking Professor McGonagall's hand, but still. He was shaking Professor McGonagall's hand with a horrible, forced smile. He caught Harry's eye, and Harry knew at once that Snape's feelings toward him hadn't changed one jot. And they won't. This didn't worry Harry. It seemed as though life would be back to normal next year, or as normal as it ever was at Hogwarts. It was the best evening of Harry's life, better than winning at Quidditch or Christmas or knocking out mountain trolls. He would never, ever forget tonight. Harry had almost forgotten that the exam results were still to come, but come they did. To their great surprise, both he and Ron passed with good marks. Hermione, of course, had the best grades the first years. Even Neville scraped through, his good herbology mark making up for his abysmal potions one. They had hoped that Goyle, who was almost as stupid as he was mean, might be thrown out, but he had passed too. It was a shame, but as Ron said, you couldn't have everything in life. That's horrible! Why would you want that? Why would you want that for somebody? That's terrible. I don't care how mean he is. Jeez. And suddenly their wardrobes were empty, their trunks were packed, Neville's toad was found lurking in a corner of the toilets, notes were handed out to all students, warning them not to use magic over the holidays. I always hope they'll forget to give us these, said Fred Weasley sadly. Hagrid was there to take them down to the fleet of boats that sailed across the lake. They were boarding the Hogwarts Express, talking and laughing as the countryside became greener and tidier, eating Bertie Bott's every flavored beans as they sped past Muggle towns, pulling off their wizard robes and putting on jackets and coats, pulling into platform 9 3/4 at King's Cross Station. Holy moly, that sentence is so long. That sentence is an entire paragraph. Because it's each portion is separated by semicolons. That whole sentence is a paragraph long. Holy moly. Wow, they just wrapped it up, didn't they? It took quite a while for them all to get off the platform. A wizened old guard was up by the ticket barrier, letting them go through the gate in 2s and 3s so they didn't attract attention by all bursting out of a solid wall at once and alarming the muggles. You must come and stay this summer, said Ron. Both of you. I'll send you an owl. Thanks, said Harry. I'll need something to look forward to. People jostled them as they moved forward toward the gateway back to the Muggle world. Some of them called, Bye, Harry. See you, Potter. Still famous, said Ron, grinning at him. Wow. Sorry, that might be a connection to Deathly Hallows. Holy moly. At the end, after 19 years later. Everyone sees Harry and they're freaking out, and who asks about it? One of the children ask about it, like, what are they talking about? And then Ron's like, it's me, I'm super famous. Wow, that might be a connection, I don't know. Not where I'm going, I promise you, said Harry. He, Ron, and Hermione passed through the gateway together. There he is, Mom. There he is, look. It was Ginny Weasley, Ron's younger sister, but she wasn't pointing at Ron. Harry Potter, she squealed. Look, Mom, I can see. Be quiet, Ginny, and it's rude to point. Mrs. Weasley smiled down at them. Busy year? She said. Very, said Harry. Thanks for the fudge and the sweater, Mrs. Weasley. Oh, it was nothing, dear. Ready, are you? It was Uncle Vernon, still purple-faced, still mustached, still looking furious at the nerve of Harry, carrying an owl in a cage in a station full of ordinary people. Behind him stood Aunt Petunia and Dudley, looking terrified at the very sight of Harry. Man, I feel like it's been forever since we saw them. Holy crap. Like, wow. I feel like it really has been a whole school year. You must be Harry's family, said Mrs. Weasley. In a manner of speaking, said Uncle Vernon. Hurry up, boy. We haven't got all day. He walked away. Harry hung back for a last word with Ron and Hermione. See you over the summer, then. Hope you have a good holiday, said Hermione, looking uncertainly after Uncle Vernon, shocked that anyone could be so unpleasant. Oh, I will, said Harry, and they were surprised at the grin that was spreading over his face. They don't know we're not allowed to use magic at home. I'm going to have a lot of fun with Dudley this summer. And that is it. That is the entire book. I read an entire book on YouTube. Holy moly. And that is the... Oh, I'm sorry. That's not gonna stand. Sorry. That is the 10th time I've read this book. I keep tick marks of how many times I read my books. All books, not just Harry Potter books. And this is the 10th time I've read this. Wow. Yay. Hooray. Yay, exciting. Okay, I will start Chamber Secrets. This is going later than normal. I usually take a break at 7:30 and it's like 8, but I had a lot to talk about for the start of the stream. So I will take a 15-minute break and then we will come back for Chamber of Secrets.